Hello everyone, welcome back to the workshop, and today I am going to take you along as I customize hats by putting on some small leather patches. We're going to be using leatherette, we're going to be using some hats easily sourced online. I'll show you how to do it with diode laser and how to attach them with a heat press, so if that's something that interests you, stay tuned, we're going to jump right into it. All right, so our lasers are very useful for burning wood and other materials, but there are also some kind of synthetic materials that are safe to use on these and that can allow you to create all sorts of customized products. And today I'm going to focus on a very popular one, and that is making customized hats. All of these items I'm going to show you today are sourced through a variety of places, but I will have links to Amazon where you can get them, so you don't necessarily need to be a full-fledged business with dealer accounts and such. All these items are something you can obtain as a hobbyist or just someone getting started before you have really the scale to order in bulk. So the stuff we're dealing with first is just your typical hats. Now these are your snapback hats, and they've just got the blank up front. They come in a variety of colors of the fabric and the mesh, so you want to look to see what kind of colors and styles you would like for yourself. You can source these on Amazon. I got these anywhere from $8 to $10 a piece, depending on the style and the color. Now, as far as the leather patches, you can get natural leather, and you could use some adhesive that you get, and then press those on with heat or an iron. But that adds some complexity to it, and that might be a look you want. Often then you might want to go back and stitch it as well. But for what I'm doing, it just heat seals on with a press, and it works pretty well. So we're dealing with leatherette, and it comes in two different styles. This is both the same color gray, but if you flip them around, you'll notice this one has this protective backer, and this is just more of a natural. So there are two different styles when working with this. This one does not have adhesive, this one does. Now I'm working with the stuff primarily that does have the adhesive, because we're going to take advantage of that. When you heat activate it, it really seals on pretty tightly to whatever you're adhering it to. Now the nice thing about this stuff, it is safe to use in your laser, and they have a multitude of colors. When you engrave in this, you are engraving just the top layer down. In some cases this will be black, some cases this will be silver underneath. There's including some white and gold, I believe. So they have a number of different color combinations, not only in the color of leather, but also in the under color as well, that you will reveal by engraving it out. So I have a small selection of colors here. We've got, of course, our gray, and then I've got this black, tan, blue, and red. So I'm going to be running this through the laser. We're going to be using the xTool D1 Pro 20 watt, and then I will try to give you some numbers for a 10 watt as well, to hopefully get you in the ballpark of where you are going to be using with your laser. Now, as with any material and your laser, I recommend you get some extra, run some tests, really dial in for yours. But the goal today is to kind of show you the process and maybe give you some ballpark numbers to start with. So let's jump over to Lightburn. We'll show you how I'm setting this up, and then we'll run a few of these through the laser. All right, so here we are in Lightburn, and I have used this before on a 10 watt laser. We're trying it now on the xTool 20 watt Pro. And so my settings, I've adjusted a little bit. I had on the 10 watt, I was running this at about 4,000 to 5,000 millimeters a minute and about 30% power. I'm going to try 7,500 millimeters a minute, 27% power on the engrave. And then for the cut on the 10 watt, I was running it at 400 and 90% power to do this outline cut. We're going to bump that up to 600 and bump it down to 80% power on this 20 watt. We've got a lot more power with this xTool D1 20 watt versus some of those others, so we're going to start there. And we may need to bump that up a little bit. Some of these have just a fine layer of the leather, and then there's a color underneath, and so we don't want to burn through that color underneath. We want to just have it show through. So this is where having a little extra material may help. But let's get over to the laser. We'll run these through it and see how it works. All right, so the laser did really well in cutting out a number of these patches in different colors. And I had to play with a little bit, as you may have seen in the blue one, to really dial it in, because there, on some of these that have the color underneath that you're going for silver or such, it's just a fine line between burning through the top layer into that color and then blasting through to this surface underneath. So I actually had to speed the xTool 20 watt up to 11,000 millimeters per minute and ramp that power down to about 27%. So the nice thing on that, it means that we're cutting these a lot faster. Each one took about 4 minutes to do, and with a little playing around with power and speed, you might even be able to increase that as well. So definitely not a huge time sink in cutting out the patches. Now we need to go about attaching them to the hats. The ones that I chose are actually self-adhesive on the back, so we can peel this off and stick them on. However, on curved surfaces and things where you're going to be wearing them outside, but I like to go a step further and use the heat press to get them activated really well. And that's worked out for kind of just your day-to-day use, worked out pretty well for me on a couple of hats so far. So we're going to jump over to that heat press. I'm going to show it to you really quick, and then we'll get these stuck on. All right, so this is a hat press. It is from Vevor. I picked it up online, and generally I'm not a fan of single-purpose tools, especially something like this that might take up some more space. However, that being said, if it's cheap enough to be worth it, if it's useful enough in the fact that it saves time or money, or it's just what you have to have, then I'll buckle and buy it. The reason I end up picking up this is that I do have some plans to be doing some more hats for a variety of things, from some of the clubs I'm a member of to being able to offer customized options for my laser onto hats and other apparel. But also, I was able to find this at a pretty good deal. Now, it has gone up in price a little bit since then, and I'll have a link down below where you can check this out on Amazon. But even coming in at 125, 130, somewhere in there, it's not terrible if you do plan on doing a number of hats, because it's going to speed up your process. It's going to ensure your quality is a little bit better. So with that in mind, let's take a quick glance at this. This does basically serve, it's got this one curved piece on here. This is kind of your very, very entry-level press. You would push this down, it would clamp down around this. The heat is coming off of a plate up here, and then the tension is adjustable by pushing this down, screwing this in, and it's going to apply more tension to this pad. Now there is this does swivel a little bit, and then there is a little bit of adjustability on it, but it is kind of what you have. Now, when you power this on, you can set both your temperature and then your press time. There's a switch in there. Once you meet past it, it starts counting down, and then once it hits that time limit, it beeps, and then you release it. It's very simple. You can adjust both the temperature and the time, and that works pretty slick. This bottom lever, this helps grab the back of the hat to try to help pull it down. I'll show you when I'm doing those. That doesn't always work well depending on the curvature of the hat and such, and so I'd sometimes opt not to use it. But again, this is kind of your basic entry-level hat press. You don't want to spend a lot of money, but you want to have some options with it. There are definitely more options from Vevor and other places where you can buy better ones. They have different cups here to mold better to your certain style hats. Just something to keep in mind when you're looking at this. I wouldn't recommend this as a business that's going to go in and do this day in and day out, spend a little bit more money, get some more features. But for the hobbyist, or maybe someone just starting out on a budget, this can definitely help you out. So let's turn this thing on. Let's jump over with the hats and the patches, get some fixed, and we'll take a look at that. All right, so we have our hat press warmed up to 270. I've got it set to 15 seconds, and I've got the tension as loose as possible because I don't want it to press down too hard on these. We're just trying to add some pressure to really set this. Now, these are sticky back. I've pulled off the backer off this one, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to line this up. Now, we've got this seam to help us, but we're also going to have to worry about that showing through our leather so much. So I like to come up about a 1/4 inch or maybe just a little under a pinky width there, and since I have that point, I'll line that up, and I'll kind of press that in, and then I'm trying to then also line this up along the center first, get that ridge line down, and then we just kind of ease this onto the fabric in place, getting it kind of set in place without too many creases as is, and just kind of work it around a little bit to prepare your hat. Now this does have this kind of lever that's supposed to be able to, you put that inside the hat and it's supposed to pull it down. But I've found with this one, it just pulls the hats a little too far forward, so then it sets it up more at an angle. So I actually like to unsnap them for this style. And that gives me a little more flexibility to get this a little more flat on here, because I can wrap this hat more around that way and bring it down this way. Now, once you're pretty sure of your alignment, you want to be careful that as this comes down, you know, it's hitting on all of the patch, but it's not creasing into here too far. So that's where you want to play with your adjustment. Make sure you have just enough tension. And once you have it kind of positioned right where you think it's going to be good, double checking that it's going to be hitting all the areas. Take your Teflon sheet. This will help make sure it doesn't stick to anything and you don't get any bleed over off of your leather or anything. And once you're happy, press it down into place. The timer will go off. I'm actually not locking this in just so it doesn't add any extra pressure on there. We'll let this tick down the 15 seconds. And then we let it go. Now that's in place. You have just a little bit of a wrinkle there from the edge hitting. Kind of work those out so they don't get pressed in too bad. But then, as you hopefully can see, it's well sealed down around all the edges. Let it cool off, and we'll move on to the next. All right, well, I guess the only thing left to do is get rid of this Minnesota Twins hat and put on our custom Ventari's Workshop custom logoed hat made with the xTool D120 watt and the Vevor hat press. So if you are interested in any of the things I used in here, from the materials to the laser to the hat press, I will have links down below to where you can find out more about these. Many of them will be affiliate links, and those do give me a little bit of kickback, so I appreciate you using them. But as always, no pressure. I just appreciate you being here, watching the videos, and checking out what's going on in my workshop. So if you like what you saw here today, hit that like button. And if you want to see more what I do in the future, hit that subscribe button. I do try to get videos out fairly regularly, between project videos like this to product reviews on machines. Sometimes it's a mix of both, like today was. And hitting that subscribe button, make sure you'll be notified the next time that I post something. So that's it for today. Thanks again for stopping by, and I hope you can get out into your workshop and make something too. We'll catch you next time.